Wow. Am I sorry, America? They take the Minnesota Vikings and make that the prime time spot versus the Indianapolis Colts. What a thriller. Joe Flacco versus Sam Darnold in a turnover machine football game where neither team can capitalize on anything. Despite an ugly looking football game, the Minnesota Vikings defeated the Indianapolis Colts 21-13 on Sunday Night Football. Sam Darnold, 28 for 34, 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, a passer rating of 107.1. Joe Flacco, 16 for 27, 179 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick. Took 3 sacks for 20 yards and had a passer rating of 63.7. There's a lot to talk about and a lot to react to after the Minnesota Vikings advance to 6-2. Well, let's talk about the first half. The teams were feeling friendly to begin this game because the Colts were driving right down the field. And somehow Joe Flacco and Jonathan Taylor have a miscommunication, poor execution on a simple handoff play. Goes right underneath the hands of Jonathan Taylor. The Minnesota Vikings recover, are going right down the field until Sam Darnold rolls out to his left and throws it right to a middle linebacker while trying to attempt a pass to TJ Hawkinson. That might have been the worst throw that I've ever seen in my entire life. Because it wasn't one of those plays where like, okay, I can see what Sam Darnold is thinking, and this guy just came out of nowhere and made a crazy one-handed catch kind of play, and, just bravo to the defense. He was scrambling to his right, and it's almost like he decided where he was going to throw the ball before he read the defense. Because as he was rolling to his right, he just lofted the ball into the end zone towards TJ Hawkinson, but there was a linebacker right in front of him, to the point where the linebacker didn't even have to run and get the ball ahead of TJ Hawkinson, but the ball just went right to TJ Hawkinson. And then the Colts probably punt or something like that. I don't quite remember. But the first half was just disastrous. And the Minnesota Vikings trailed 7-0 because second quarter, the Vikings complete a beautiful 3rd and 16 trick play. Justin Jefferson throws a long pass to Aaron Jones, and he runs it for 16 yards, gets the first down. And after that play happened, my first reaction was, why don't the Minnesota Vikings run this play more often? I get that it's a trick play and you don't want to expose your trick plays too much, but every time the Vikings attempt that play, it always goes for a lot of yards. And the last thing the Minnesota Vikings opposing defenses are thinking is, oh, I bet Justin Jefferson's going to throw it on this play. So I think that the Vikings should run that play more. But the very next play, Sam Darnold takes a hit from the defensive tackle who barreled over Garrett Bradbury, gets stiff-armed in the head. He fumbles again, picks up the ball. They run it into the end zone, and it's 7-0. A couple of things on that play. One, Garrett Bradbury got absolutely manhandled by the Colts defensive line. And that was happening for a lot of the first half. Second thought on that play. Sam Darnold needs to hold on to the flippin' football, especially after a turnover he had while the Minnesota Vikings were about to score. Another turnover by Darnold. What are you doing? Number 3, the officials. You threw the flag. You threw the flag. It's not that you didn't see it. You saw it. You threw the flag. And then he got convinced by another official that he didn't see what he thought he saw, or the official overruled him and thought he saw something different, when the original official that threw the flag was right? Darnold got hit on the head, and that should have been a 15-yard penalty. Now, the officials missed another call back-to-back weeks where Sam Darnold got clotheslined by a defender. But again, was this play avoidable? And yes, it was. By the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, by Sam Darnold himself, just hold on to the football. So as bad as the officiating was on that particular play, Sam Darnold still needs to hold on to the football. And the Minnesota Vikings offensive line needs to do a better job blocking for Sam Darnold in that situation. So blame the officials because it was a terrible call or a terrible thrown flag, pick up the flag, let's pretend that didn't happen kind of thing. But at the same time, you need to hold the Minnesota Vikings players accountable in their execution, and their execution was poor at best on that play. You can also hold the officials accountable and say that their execution of committing to the flag that they threw was horrible too. But I just don't want us to overlook the fact that the Minnesota Vikings put themselves in a situation for the officials to miss a call. The Vikings were the first wrong ones, and the officials doubled down on the Minnesota Vikings mistakes and had a mistake of their own. So Vikings down 7-0. And then Will Reichard, Mr. Robot, who doesn't miss field goal kicks ever, who has range from 68 yards, or allegedly, the Vikings were going to kick it against the Lions if they didn't have a 5-yard penalty, and it would have been a 68-yard kick, misses a 53-yard field goal, shows his human side, and then he misses a 31-yard field goal off the goalpost, shanked it to the right, which now it's a concern if he's injured or not, because at the end of the game, he was kicking in the extra point and he was doing the kickoff, but he was definitely favoring that leg, and they showed him wrapping it on Sunday Night Football. So something to monitor going forward, because Will Reichard has become a big part of this football team because he's been so consistent and he's been so reliable. And when you have a Sam Darnold at your quarterback position, you need reliable kickers like Will Reichard that are going to knock it down almost every single time when he gets in position. So something to monitor moving forward from the Minnesota Vikings perspective. Another thing that we should focus on, now that we're kind of talking about the quarterbacking play, second half, Vikings pulled it together. Third quarter, they scored 14 points. Sam Darnold threw a touchdown to Jordan Addison, who made an incredible diving catch, corralled it with two hands, then brought it in with one, didn't bobble it. And it is absolutely amazing to me how wide receivers can not bobble the football, because a catch is the most unknown thing ever in the history of sports, and yet get 2 feet down without that ball rubbing against the ground, keeping control. There were so many catches throughout the day on Sunday where Jordan Addison made a spectacular diving catch, maintained the football, got his 2 feet down, and the football didn't bobble out of his hands and touch the ground. The Colts player did that too, where the sideline, the Vikings tried to push him out of bounds, and he drug his foot down last second, held on to the football, and didn't bobble the ball. But that was a remarkable catch by Jordan Addison. And you look at the throw, and it was a solid throw, but that's a risky throw. Sam Darnold, touchdown, awesome, but he is scrambling to his right. 2 defenders are chasing him down. He launches it into the corner of the end zone, Addison makes a remarkable catch, but you look at that throw, and that's not typically a throw that you want Sam Darnold making, especially after 2 turnovers already throughout that football game. So Vikings finally get on the board, tie the game up at 7, and then the Minnesota Vikings score another touchdown. Sam Darnold throws a touchdown to Jalen Naylor. Vikings go up 14-7. The Minnesota Vikings defense does an amazing job throughout this ball game, limiting Joe Flacco, and he's 39 years old. We shouldn't be afraid of Joe Flacco. But the Colts have put up points this season when Joe Flacco has been their quarterback, and following 2 disappointing performances against the Lions and against the Rams, this was a big bounce-back game for the Minnesota Vikings. This is a game that they needed to pounce on because it's an opponent that they needed to pounce on. And the Minnesota Vikings defense did exactly that. Then the Minnesota Vikings put it away with a play-action pass in the red zone to Josh Oliver, not T.J. Hockenson, which I think disguises the play a little bit more. I think that was purposeful because you think Josh Oliver's out there, you think run. T.J. Hockenson on the sidelines, you probably are thinking run. Well, Sam Darnold does a little play-action fake to his right, going to his left, and finds Josh Oliver in the end zone. And a crazy statistic, Josh Oliver, second leading receptions, tied with Jordan Addison with 5. Justin Jefferson, 7 catches, 137 yards. Josh Oliver, 5 catches, 58 yards. And Jordan Addison, 5 catches, 42 yards. Another point that we need to make in this football game, Sam Darnold, he continues to regress. His passer rating, fine, 107.1. But wow, was Sam Darnold up and down in this game. And he just needs to be better. We talked about the interception that he attempted to T.J. Hockenson in the end zone. But his second interception to Justin Jefferson, he was attempting a pass to him right after Byron Murphy intercepted Joe Flacco. This was a game where the Vikings and Colts were exchanging gifts. Jonathan Taylor fumble. Oh, it's Sam Darnold interception. Joe Flacco interception. Oh, Sam Darnold interception. It was a back and forth, ugly football game. Sam Darnold has picked to Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison was wide open, clear as day, to the point where Jordan Addison's dad, Rolando Addison Sr., tweets out this, says, even Stevie Wonder could see Jordan Addison is open on Sam Darnold's interception. The dude was wide open, streaking across the field. And on the instant replay, Sam Darnold had tunnel vision towards Justin Jefferson. Didn't even survey the field, looked one way, and there were 3 Indianapolis Colts players in Justin Jefferson's vicinity, and the Colts player read the play, jumped it, and it was an interception. Kept the Colts right in the football game, and Jordan Addison was wide open, streaking across the field, only had 1 safety to beat, and he already had a step on him, and Sam Darnold missed him. Sam Darnold does not see the football field well. And it's been clear as day that he doesn't see the football field well. You know, the other day is like last week, the week before, I think it was against the Lions. Darnold went 22 for 27, and it's a great completion percentage. I came out on the podcast and said, Sam Darnold, despite the 80-something% completion percentage, he's regressing because he's just not as crisp as he was early in the season. And you don't expect him to be as crisp as he was early in the season. He led the NFL in touchdown passes after week 5. Of course he's going to regress. He is never going to sustain 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions through 5 games, probably for the rest of his career. He's probably never going to do that again. So did he regress? Yes, because he wasn't throwing 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in 5 games anymore. There was only one way for Sam Darnold to go, and that was down, because he was never going to maintain the statistics, the productivity that he was doing in the first 5 weeks of the season. So I came out and said he regressed. Well, people didn't like that. Well, he's regressing. He's not seeing the football field well. He's forcing turnovers. He's making bad plays. And something that's not going to show up on the stat sheet, Vikings have a chance to put the game away. It's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and he takes a sack late in the game. And it's one of those situations where he could dump the ball off to Cam Akers and have a situation where it's 4th and 3, or maybe Cam Akers makes the guy miss and he gets a first down, or maybe Will Reichard is feeling good enough to attempt like a 55-yard field goal, seal the game, go up 17-10. Not that that seals the game, but you're up by a touchdown rather than up 14-10. Yeah, at least feel a little bit more comfortable with that kind of lead. And Sam Darnold holds onto the ball way too long. He doesn't make check down passes, and neither does Joe Flacco. I tweeted this earlier in the game at Minnesota Tim1 is my Twitter handle. I said, this is a game decided by both quarterbacks not taking checkdowns for easy yards. Because how many times did instant replay show Joe Flacco having a guy wide open in the flat for a gain, at least a first down, who knows how long he could have went, and he forces the ball towards the middle of the field, and the pass gets broken up. When the Vikings forced a turnover on downs on 4th and 2, Joe Flacco on 3rd and 2 had a running back wide open in the flat to gain at least 8, 9, 10 yards, and he throws it towards the middle of the field, and Harrison Smith breaks it up. Both quarterbacks struggled to make easy check down throws and attempted bad plays or sacks in the middle of the field. So this was just one of the ugliest football games I have ever watched. And, the big reaction is, the Vikings won, they're 6-2. They're tied with the, are they tied with the Packers? Packers are what? I think the Packers are 5-3 now, something like that. Vikings are 6-2, so they're right up there, right behind the Detroit Lions. Packers are 6-3, so Vikings are right behind the Detroit Lions. Lions are 7-1, Vikings 6-2, Green Bay Packers 6-3. The big reaction is, win's a win. You got to win. You got to win. You got to win. But as the season continues, and the Vikings schedule gets easier with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not saying that's a guaranteed win. The Tennessee Titans, and then they have another easy one after that too. But all these games are on the road. But the Vikings aren't Super Bowl contenders. They're not. I mean, you are not going to win a Super Bowl with Sam Darnold playing the way he's been playing the last few weeks of the season. A win's a win, great. But the Minnesota Vikings proved in this football game that they are not serious contenders to win it all. They're not serious contenders to make the NFC Championship game or make it to the Super Bowl and face off against probably the Kansas City Chiefs. So, a win's a win. The Vikings are 6-2. Awesome. The Vikings defense showed up and dominated throughout this football game. The only points the Colts scored really were an interception from Sam Darnold, and fumble from Sam Darnold, and a late pass interference penalty that was pretty much meaningless to score field goals. So awesome from that standpoint. Fun game to watch because it was such a car crash of a game. America, you just got a lousy game. But Vikings won 6-2, should be 7-2 after next weekend, defeating the Jacksonville Jaguars. But no guarantee there. But we'll see what happens next. But not sold on the Vikings as Super Bowl contenders. However, they were able to squeak out a win versus the Joe Flacco-led Indianapolis Colts that couldn't move the ball up and down the field. The Vikings should have blown this game open and won by 20 points, 30 points, because the offense held the Minnesota Vikings back. Sam Darnold, his interceptions and fumbles held the Minnesota Vikings back from dominating this football game. And I just don't see Super Bowl contender written on the Minnesota Vikings following this football game. But big win in terms of responding to a 2-game losing streak, because you lose this football game and we're in full epic collapse mode. But you responded to adversity, and now we'll see what happens next on the road at Jacksonville.